Hey everybody, it's Krista from the Department of Illumination, and I'm here today with a tutorial on how to make a lantern for beginners. This is part of the Firelight Lantern Festival's at-home programming this year, so this tutorial is for you if you've never made a lantern before or if you just need a little bit of a refresher. These are the materials that you're going to need for your project. You're going to need some bamboo skewers. I have these ones. They're 12-inch, available at any dollar store. You can use any size you can find. You're going to need some masking tape. I use good quality masking tape, so I get this from the hardware store. You're going to need a small paintbrush, one that you don't care too much about because it might get a little bit wrecked. You're going to need a pair of scissors. You will need a pipe cleaner or some small gauge wire, and you're going to need some glue. So this is just a pot of white glue that I have here, and I've mixed a little bit of water into it just to loosen it up a bit. You're going to need some tissue paper. Any kind will do, really. I like to start with a nice light color always first, and you can layer other colors on top. And finally, you need some sort of a little cup. So I've got this little cup that's like you would get ketchup in, but you'll need something that's going to hold your candle in your lantern. We use these little LED tea lights, so we like to just put them in a little paper holder. Works really nicely, is also, you know, biodegradable. So I'm going to teach you a very basic lantern making technique. Now you can take this exact same technique and make any type of shape you want. So you can make a star shape, you could make a cube. Basically any sort of geometrical shape will work with this exact same technique and materials. So I always use a plastic tablecloth. If you don't have one, you can use a garbage bag. So we're going to start with our base. Our base is consisting of 3 skewers. I'm going to take a piece of masking tape and I attach it onto one skewer, and then I'm going to wrap the other one in here. Now the great thing with this is you do not have to be tidy at all. This does not have to look beautiful. It just needs to be held together very strongly. So again, I'm going to show you. I just attach onto one skewer with a piece of masking tape. I find the other corner, just like so. One thing that you will want to pay attention to, especially if you're doing this with children, is that these bamboo skewers are quite pointy. So you will want to make sure your children are not stabbing each other. So yeah, here we go. There's our first triangle. Super easy, just like that, okay? When you put your masking tape on, you kind of give it a little squeeze to make sure it's on there nice and tight. Then you are going to take your next 3 skewers. What you can do is you're going to take that pointy side, and you're going to actually you can stab it right into that masking tape that you just made there. Theoretically, that should kind of work to hold those in place. I'm going to take a piece of tape at the top and gather all those 3 points together. So you can definitely use more than one piece of tape per intersection if you need to. Don't be shy with the masking tape. Get that really nice and secure. I've got my top all bundled up there. Now I'm going to go back to those bottom corners and get those wrapped up really nicely so they're not going to fall apart. Alright, the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to build in a little platform. I'm going to show you my finished ones here. You see on the bottom of this cube, I have put a little platform where I've put my tea light in there. So on a triangle, we're going to need to cut some pieces. Now with the skewers, it's actually a little bit easier if you do not try to use your scissors to cut them. They actually, if you need to break a skewer, the easiest way to do that, you see I'm going to need to break this piece that's too long, is you actually just snap it with your fingers and wiggle it, and comes off pretty easily. If you do try to cut these skewers with your scissors, what generally happens is they go flying off somewhere else. To break your skewer, you hold your fingers close to the breaking point and you kind of do it quickly. and you see it will just break right in two like that. So what I'm doing here is I've just added in some cross pieces to the bottom of my lantern. I'm just going to tape those in. Then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use some masking tape to build a little bridge somewhere near the middle. So I do that just by wrapping a piece of tape around a couple of times. Then I'm going to take my little cup and I'm just going to tape that right in. So next I'm going to put a hanger on my lantern. The reason that I do that is normally we're walking in a parade with our lanterns, so we will be handing out carrying sticks for you to carry your lantern. Of course, this year we are not having a parade because COVID. Instead you will want to maybe hang your lantern up in the corner of your room or just walk around your house with it because, hey, why not? So I've just made a little loop with a pipe cleaner on the top there, and that is going to be my hanger. It's pretty large, it doesn't have to be that big. You could make it half as big. All right, so our next step is we are going to cut some paper to put on our lantern. So what you want to do, take your piece of tissue paper. So we always want to leave one side of the lantern open in order to put our candle in. So we are going to leave, in this pyramid, we're going to leave the bottom open. Okay, so we were going to now just measure out our pieces of paper. So you lie your side down on the paper, and basically what you can do is you can kind of eyeball it, trace it, use a pencil if you want. I actually even just run my fingernails along the paper. It gives me sort of a rough outline of where to cut. I know you probably can't see that, but it's there. So we want our paper to hang over, I would say approximately 1 centimeter is a good amount. It's always better to cut the paper a little bit bigger than smaller because once you cut it, you cannot make it bigger, but you can always trim it down. So I'm just going to cut this piece of paper. I like to use white paper because it lets the light shine through the best. And lanterns are all about light, so that's an important feature. I'm actually just going back and taping on my hook because my hook flopped over. Let's just tape it right on so then that won't happen. If I'm doing a pyramid, you know what, all 3 sides are the same, so you can prepare all 3 sides of your paper. And through the magic of television, I have 3 pieces of paper all ready to go here. So I'm gonna get that all ready before I get my glue out. Now it is not a bad idea also to have some paper towels or a rag on hand because it could get a little bit messy at times here. So I'm gonna take my glue. Again, this is just a bit of watered down white glue. Give it a little stir here. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna work one side at a time. Okay, so I'm gonna dip my brush in the glue and I'm going to paint all 3 sides of this with the glue. It is going to drip onto the table. This is why we have a tablecloth. Okay, it's okay, it's a little bit messy, it's just glue. Okay, so, and you do have to kind of work a little bit quickly before all of that glue dries up, drips off, etc. So you see I'm just going to gently press that on, making sure if it's a little bit short on one side here, I can kind of adjust it. Okay, so it looks kind of just like that. It's hanging over on every side. Now this is also the time you could do a little bit of trimming if you needed to. All right, so it's hanging over a little bit on every side. This side I think it's hanging a little bit too much. So I'm just going to give it a little trim. Your edges do not have to be tidy because they all get tucked in. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is basically I am folding all of these edges over with my paintbrush and really coating those edges with glue. One great thing about using white glue is you will notice when your lantern dries, all of that glue will be completely invisible. It just dries up and goes clear. So as you're doing it, you may think, ooh, this looks kind of messy. you don't need to worry about that because it's all just gonna dry and disappear. A neat thing too when you're painting, so I basically paint the sticks underneath, put the paper on, and then I paint the sticks over top. And one thing that happens when you paint over top like this is as the glue dries, it actually pulls the paper a bit tighter like a drum almost, okay? And there's our finished lantern all papered up. Now what we want to do is make some decorations for our lantern. So starting with a white shape, other colors layer really nicely on top. You are going to cut out some shapes out of other colors of tissue paper. And I'm going to paint a little spot just gently onto my lantern. And then I'm going to place one of the hearts there. And then I paint lightly again over top. And it does look a little bit messy at this stage, but as I mentioned, when it dries, it will all be perfectly clear. So you don't want your paintbrush super, super drippy, you know, sort of a medium amount of glue. All right, so I can just keep going on all sides there. I can layer some other colors in. And that's basically it. Here's one that I did earlier. See, I layered a bunch of different colors on top of each other. You can write words if you want, stars. The sky's the limit on how you decorate your lantern. That's it for me. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a ton of fun at home making your lanterns.